There are many villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man films. As a superhero, Spider-Man must take care of these criminals. The famous ones include Green Goblin, Venom, Dr. Octopus, and many others. Why are these good men so evil? What are they looking for? Want to conquer the world? Even though they were originally men who loved their family and their work. They even made Spider-Man cry in several scenes because he had to lose the people closest to him, including his lover. But of course, every action has consequences that must be borne. Watch the following video until the end to get the full picture, what and why, as well as the events behind them turning evil and having to face Spider-Man. As the first opening, our attention will turn to the Green Goblin from first Spider-Man movie, a villain who is identified with a metallic green costume and advanced technology. The person behind the green mask is Norman Osborn. Norman loves Harry Osborn, his son, who is good friends with Peter Parker and hopes that one day Harry will be able to continue the business he built. Norman actually also liked Peter Parker because of his intelligence and had offered to help. Until one day his research funding was stopped by the military, and Norman's anger became even worse after arguing with top officials at the Oscorp company that he had worked so hard to build. With frustration, Norman, who has used a serum formula that can increase physical strength, wants revenge. However, the effects of the serum made him unable to think straight. He succeeded in getting revenge, but he also faced Peter Parker, who was wearing a Spider-Man costume. This is where the conflict began, until finally Norman Osborn, wearing the Green Goblin costume, was killed by his own weapon. Before he died, Norman told Peter Parker not to tell Harry. This was intended so that Harry would not be disappointed with his father's situation. Next, our friendly villain, the many-armed Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. Dr. Otto Octavius was a very intelligent and ambitious scientist. With tentacles connected to his brain, he created a device capable of creating energy sources, such as the sun, and hopes that these findings will be useful for humans. Dr. Otto loves his wife, and he is friends with Peter Parker. One time, the demonstration he carried out in front of journalists failed. The chaos that occurred also claimed the life of his wife, Rosie, until Peter Parker as Spider-Man managed to remove all the resources and stop the chaos. Long story short, Dr. Otto, or Dr. Octopus, managed to escape from the hospital, which was about to release its tentacles, and return to the destroyed laboratory. He also rebuilt his research and needed a lot of funds and resources. Conflict occurs when Dr. Octopus writhes and has to face Spider-Man. At the end of the story, Peter Parker managed to stopping his project. Dr. Octopus realized his mistake and sank his project along with himself into the river. Next, we discuss the big alien spider, Venom, from Spider-Man 3. Eddie Brock's career as a news journalist was quite brilliant at the Daily Bugle news agency. He is very passionate and ambitious. His performance is often praised by the head of the office, Jonah Jameson. Peter Parker, who at that time worked as a journalist in the same office, felt rivaled by Eddie Brock. Another time, Peter was infected by an unknown foreign entity, causing his behavior to change. This change turns out to cause him problems, including with Eddie, when Peter tried to free himself from the foreign parasite. At the same time, Eddie was contaminated, turning him into Venom. Eddie, who has become Venom, tries to retaliate and hurt Peter Parker, but he was ultimately killed at the end of the story due to an explosion. Still from Spider-Man 3, Sandman is next on our list of villains. Flint Marko is a father who really loves his daughter, who at that time was sick and needed medical expenses. Flint himself was being chased by the police until finally he fell and was trapped in a machine that turned him into Sandman. Taking advantage of his new powers, Sandman collects money by robbing, but he has to face Spider-Man, the superhero who prevents him from committing crimes. At the peak of the story, Sandman is persuaded by Venom to join in killing Spider-Man. The fight was inevitable, and Spider-Man finally learned the truth of the story, that Flint was not responsible for the death of his uncle, Ben Parker. Peter Parker then releases him and forgives Flint Marko. We took this winged villain and alien technology from the Spider-Man Homecoming film. Adrian Toomes is a private company owner who lost his livelihood after his company was stopped by the government. He also loves his daughter very much. Utilizing the alien technology remaining on him, Adrian assumes the identity of the Vulture and becomes a black market arms dealer, as well as forcibly taking alien resources from the government by stealing them. However, his illegal activities are discovered by Spider-Man, and Adrian also learns the true identity of Spider-Man, who is also a close friend of his daughter. So that forced him to fight with the superhero. At the end of the fight, Spider-Man manages to defeat Vulture, However, after a fierce fight between the two, Vulture was saved by Spider-Man from the explosion. Quentin Beck is a very ambitious figure. Behind his round gas mask, he is given the title Mysterio. He hopes someday to work with superheroes in eradicating crime. For this reason, he created technology and created a fake story to make himself look great. We took this villain from the film Spider-Man Far From Home. Mysterio's ambitions really crossed the line and created a lot of chaos. Of course, where there is chaos, he will emerge as a hero. In the end, Peter Parker found out about Mysterio's deception attempt. Mysterio also tries to trap Peter Parker. At the end of the story, Spider-Man tries to reclaim the sophisticated glasses that Mysterio controlled. Mysterio was finally killed by Spider-Man in a fight full of illusions. Dr. Curtis Connors is a scientist who became known as the Lizard after a self-inflicted experiment transformed him. He is friendly, soft-spoken, and invites Peter Parker to work with him in his lab. Taken from the Amazing Spider-Man movie, Dr. Connors trying to experiment with reptiles' genes to grow one of his stumped arms. It's just a shame that this experiment also made him vicious and wild. Apart from that, its shape also changes like a lizard. After going through a fierce battle with Spider-Man on top of the Oscorp Tower, Lizard was defeated because he changed back into Dr. Connors. He even saved Spider-Man, who almost fell down. Then he lamented that his arm had become stumped again. Electro appears in the film The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Electro is the alter ego of Max Dillon, who is just an electrician who works repairing power lines in New York City. He is a tenacious and good worker. Dillon was extremely insecure and lonely, seeing himself as a self-proclaimed nobody in spite of designing New York's power grid for Oscorp Industries. Once Max fell into a vat of electric eels, which transformed his body into a translucent form of living electricity. Filled with confusion and anger, Electro accidentally creates chaos in the middle of the city and is stopped by Spider-Man. Long story short, Electro went berserk again after being released from his detention at Oscorp, but in the end he was killed after experiencing an electrical overload on his body. As mentioned at the beginning, Spider-Man had to cry because he lost the person he loved so much when fighting with criminals. In a scene from the film The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Gwen Stacy, the person she loves, dies after falling from a tower, and this is a pretty sad scene. On the other hand, it turns out that holding on to hurt feelings can sometimes make a good man become a criminal. Their actions also impact other people, although there are also those who don't do it on purpose. The Marvel Cinematic Universe version of the Spider-Man film scenario does not just show the villains, but also shows their previous human side, from a good man to an evil villain. The causes of certain things may even be trivial. Before we end this video, you may choose the next interesting video related to movie that appears on the end of screen. Please subscribe, like, and share this video too if you like it. Don't forget to comment below. Keep being a good person, and thanks for watching.